Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Nathan and this is Sioux Shrimp Breeders. In this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of different tanks as I've just set them up, and I really wanted to go over some of the things that I do when I first set up my shrimp tank. First, I wanted to show a little clip of just how big my crystal red shrimp colony was. This colony of shrimp got up to about 2,000 shrimp. It was one of my favorite colonies, but now it is very, very small. I'm down to about 20 shrimp. I had sold most of that colony off, but I did keep about 20 of them in my 75-gallon tank, which I've just recently set up. I'm going to go over some of the plants that I have in my tank, the substrate that I use, the lighting, because I feel it's important that I go over everything that I have in my tank just so you have an idea of what I do and the steps that I do for each of my shrimp tanks. The soil that I'm using for this aquarium is called ADA Amazonia. And this soil, just like many others, takes quite a long time to get cycled so that way it's shrimp safe. It releases a lot of ammonia, and that's kind of a good thing for plants, but not such a good thing for shrimp. And so that's why I never put shrimp in any of my tanks with a buffering substrate before the 2-month period that it usually takes for a tank to cycle. I did make a shrimp tank setup video, and if you missed that, you should go back and check that out because it would really help before you watch this. In every single tank that I have floating plants. Floating plants are one of those things that once I found out how good they are at sucking up nitrates and keeping my tanks stable, I've had them and keep them in every single one of my tanks. The plants that I have are exactly the same in almost every single one of my Caridina tanks. And in this tank in particular, I have some red root floaters, and these are some new floaters that I got, which I really, really love. There is also some narrow leaf Java fern, some Java moss. In the back, there's Rotala indica pink. For filtration, all I have is 2 sponge filters that are, I think they're rated for like 80 gallons, but I really don't think that they would do 80 gallons. But I do have 2 in here. I am going to add a couple more later when the colony grows a little bit bigger. One of the questions that I get asked quite a bit is if I use fertilizers in my planted tanks. And the answer to that is no. I don't use any fertilizers of any kind in any of my planted tanks for my shrimp. I also do not keep any kind of fish in any of my shrimp tanks, and that's just because I want to have the maximum amount of babies in all of my shrimp tanks, and I feel like all fish will eat some of your shrimp. Another plant that you might see in some of my tanks is called Subwasser tang, and that plant in general is really good for hiding shrimp babies. It's kind of equivalent to any kind of moss. I'm using 3 T5 high output lights for this tank. These in particular are 4 foot long. I did happen to find one little baby in here, which is really, really exciting, but they are very hard to see, so I did only find one. When it comes to feeding this tank, I have only fed this tank 1 pellet of snowflake food in the entire time that I've had these shrimp in here. Shrimp really don't need any food unless the colony is fairly large. In this tank, it is very, very small, so I do not feed this tank at all. I was going to turn this into a little bit of a series, so if there's anything that I left out in the beginning care of a shrimp tank, be sure to leave a comment below and let me know. Remember that if you are a shrimp keeper or just a shrimp lover in general, be sure to hit that subscribe button because that is what my channel is all about. One of the videos that I wanted to do next week was a full water change on a tank, and I was going to show myself doing it from start to finish. So let me know in the comments below if that would be something that you would want me to do. If you are interested in seeing my colonies grow from the very start, then this is the series to follow. This one is going to be kind of a little bit of a mixed tank with blue bolts, blue steels, red bolts, and red steels. This tank has been set up for about the same amount of time as my 75 gallon, which is about 3 months. This tank, I have some floating plants called water lettuce. These in particular can get very crowded and they can block a lot of the light from the other plants, so these will have to be removed from time to time. One thing you want to watch out for, of course, is losing your babies in these roots. Right now, I would say there's anywhere between 40 and 50 blue bolts, blue steel, and red bolts and red steel mixes. I do have a few hybrids in between just because I like to play around with the genetics just a little bit. You will notice that the plants in this tank are exactly like the other tank. It's just the way that I like to do things. I always figure that this is what's helped me breed my colonies in the past, so I really don't like to change a whole lot. You will notice some leaf litter in the tank, and those are Indian almond leaves which the shrimp will eat during its decaying process. What this releases is tannins into the water, and it also is really good for beneficial bacteria when they eat it. I haven't had any kind of shrimp diseases in my tanks, and I would imagine that these are a very good reason why. The driftwood that I like to use is called Malaysian driftwood. That driftwood in particular has always been really good at decaying really slowly. They will graze on it quite a bit, which I've noticed, and it really is just a good all-rounded wood for shrimp. I have been making my own shrimp food, and I've been feeding it to my shrimp for quite some time now, as it's much more cost-effective for me. The temperature of my shrimp room is 70 degrees. I heat the entire shrimp room so that way I don't have to put a heater in every single tank. But for the most part, it just kind of fluctuates up and down between 68 to 72 degrees, and my shrimp don't seem to mind it at all. But that is going to be it for my video. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and cheers.